Hello and welcome to the In the Pen podcast, a podcast about relievers, part of the Pitcher List Podcast Network. My name is Jake Crumpler, and as always, I'm joined by Pitcher List bullpen expert Rick Graham. How's it going, Rick? Have you been watching the World Cup?
Actually, yes. Yeah. Have you been? I know you're not much of a, yeah.
We put him on.
Yeah.
My girlfriend's been into watching the U.S. games, and if we have the time, we watch some other ones. I know it was her niece's birthday last weekend, and we watched. There was some crazy comeback where somebody scored a goal in the last few minutes. I forget what the matchup was. That was cool, and it's been cool watching U.S. win. But yeah, I'm more just locked into baseball than looking at other sports. But of course, we get this every few years, so might as well tune in, especially when the U.S. isn't too bad.
Yeah, I've been paying attention, watching. It's definitely nice being out on the West Coast where you got games pretty much from like morning till night, and the whole, I think coming up there's going to be 6 games a day too, which is so it's definitely it's been a interesting couple weeks for the World Cup, and especially here, like we have games right down the road from us, and the Scotland, the Tartan Army coming here, making going to Fenway too. They've been invading baseball stadiums. It's been fun to see that whole crossover between the European football fans and the American baseball, soccer, whatever fans, wherever they are. So yeah, definitely been interesting, especially when it's been hosted here.
Yeah, we get a lot out here too, because I know they're hosting them at
San
Levi
Francisco's
Stadium. Yeah, that's in Santa Clara actually, but close enough. It's more South Bay, but yeah, it's more rural, more suburban, but it's super interesting, cool to have all the fans out here. I mean, not that I've run into any. I think probably the most interaction I have is all the TikToks where people or Europeans are going to Walmart and just being super amazed by some of the stuff there. And it's always like, can you have like a chaperone go with you to Walmart so that people can tell you nobody buys the giant thing of ketchup? Like that's just there for like a party or like a company or something. Like people at home don't have 3 gallons of ketchup in their fridge.
I know. I mean, I can't even imagine like Costco I mean, it's just like they're the size amounts, the portions. It's the thing, like the portions with the food too being like a big deal. It's just it's a little bit excessive, but I guess that's the way we're doing it in America. And
I just think it's a little bit misrepresentative when you're going to Walmart and you're looking at the bottom of the shelf at just the big stuff, and then they're getting amazed. They're looking at like the Jimmy Dean like breakfast corn dog thing, which actually looks pretty good. I've never had one, but it's like a pancake outer with a sausage inside. I'm like, that's probably pretty good, and you guys are looking at it like it's some crazy thing. But you'll have beans on toast and blood sausage. Like, come on.
That's the thing. I mean, a lot of the food, I mean, like the Northern European food is not very certainly like London, Scotland. I mean, it's just, you're not getting the food here, especially like in most of the cities that are hosting, like Boston's got a pretty large amount of food offerings, and I don't know, it's just definitely been it's crazy because having it in this world, this age where social media, you can see everyone, that Freddie dude going across the country, and like every celebrity tweeting back at him about his journey. Just like crazy that can even happen. But it's fun time, and I'm hoping the U.S. can make a run in this thing. I don't know. They haven't played anyone tough yet, but we'll see once they get through to the next round.
We will. All right. That's enough soccer talk. We're here to talk relievers. Of course, we're going to go over the news and notes from the past week. Then we'll talk about the closers rising and falling on Rick's weekly closer ranks. And then we're going to do some early trade deadline speculation. It's pretty early, but we're about a week away from that final week before the trade, or a month away from that final week before the trade deadline. So I don't think it's too early to get an idea of the guys on your fantasy rosters that you can start to look to trade to other ball clubs because they might lose their closer role in the future, or see where guys might have competition in the future. It should give you an idea, not only for your fantasy teams, but also just from a baseball perspective. It's always fun to speculate on the trade deadline. And I don't think it's too early, as we're about a month away. So let's start off with the news and notes, beginning with the transactions. Nothing too major in the past week in terms of injuries or transactions. So we'll run through these pretty quick, starting with the Giants, who activated Matt Gage from the 15-day IL after he missed about 3 weeks with knee inflammation. Reaver Sanmartin was optioned to the minors in a corresponding move. Not really much fantasy implications of that one, but the next one, Eric Sabrowski, was activated from the 15-day IL after missing about a month with elbow inflammation. Will Dion was optioned to the minors in a corresponding move, but Sabrowski back into that setup role in the Guardians bullpen. Where do you have him ranked among setup men in baseball?
I have him back in I think I have him 5th. It's I want to see him. I don't know if he's pitched yet tonight, because he came back Friday, he pitched. It wasn't great. Velo was a little down. He allowed a couple runs, and he hasn't pitched since Friday. And it did feel rushed to begin with, his return, as I think the original timeline was like early July, what they were hoping for. So yeah, I just want to, hopefully he's okay. That first outing was just a little rust. But yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on, because I mean the Guardians definitely need him. He's one of the best setup guys in baseball, and if I think a lot of people dropped him in holds leagues thinking it was going to be a longer absence. So like if he's back to full strength and available, then yeah, if you're in a holds league, you're gonna want to jump on that before he gets going again. But that's the question is, I just not 100% sure he's 100% healthy.
That is a fair assessment of that. I hope he's okay, because prior to the injury, Sabrowski was one of the best, if not the best setup man in baseball. 17 holds, 2.5 ERA, strikeout rate over 46%. So he was looking really dominant. Let's hope he gets right back to doing that. And we'll stick in the AL Central and go to the White Sox, who activated Jordan Hicks from the 15-day IL. He missed about a month with a lat strain. Tyler Davis was optioned to the minors in a corresponding move, and Hicks is not really fantasy relevant at this point in his career. ERA well over 5 with a save and 3 holds, but just a 17% strikeout rate. Tyler Davis, though, that's surprising demotion. He was pitching pretty well for them.
Yeah, he was. There's definitely something there with Tyler Davis. A little inconsistent, but someone to keep an eye on in deeper leagues. Definitely dynasty leagues where you have like a deeper relief roster. Yeah, I think with Hicks, he was starting to kind of show something before he went on the IL. He was throwing his sweeper more. I think he's always just been used to be like, throwing 100 and like just working getting him by.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like in today's world, it's like if your 100-mile-per-hour fastball is not, it doesn't have great shape. If it's just kind of empty velocity, it's you need something else. So he's throwing his sweeper more, and it was working, but it's a long way away from trusting Jordan Hicks. I mean, the guy, but he still throws 100. So there's that. It's always, always hope that some sort of breakout happens with him. But
right.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, the potential's always there for a reliever that can throw that hard, but Hicks has never really had the command or the health to tap into that. We've seen brief bouts of that, but I don't expect that to happen this season. Next, we've got Cal Backus, who was activated from the 15-day IL after missing nearly 2 months with elbow inflammation. Max Lazar was optioned to the minors in a corresponding move. Backus gives the Phillies a third left-handed option in their bullpen. And lastly, Pierce Johnson was activated from the 15-day IL after missing 3 weeks with elbow inflammation. Julian Garcia was also selected from the minors. He's a 31-year-old rookie who's figured out how to strike out batters in the minors this year. But corresponding moves, Zach Maxwell optioned to the minors. And a little bit of news, Emilio Pagan will begin a rehab assignment on Thursday as he's recovering from a hamstring strain. So the Reds bullpen is shifting around. We got Pierce Johnson coming back. We got Emilio Pagan due back in probably a week or two. And that will hopefully take some pressure off Tony Santillan, who's improved a little bit, but I don't think he's somebody that the Reds want to continue trusting in the 9th inning.
Yeah, I mean, since Ian's definitely figured something out, and that's good for the Reds no matter what, because they need at least like someone setting up for Pagan when he returns. But yeah, I don't think there's enough time there for him to, make any sort of noise as far as will he keep the role when Pagan. I think it's Pagan's role when he comes back.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they need something, but even like they need some help there if they're going to make some sort of run. Julian Garcia's, kind of a journeyman, but he's definitely an interesting. I mean, stuff wise, there's something there. I don't know if the command's good enough or if the stuff's good enough at the MLB level, but I mean, he's got a pretty good sweeper. Fastball plays better than the velocity, so maybe something there. But again, with all these guys, like I mean, almost like Maxwell, May, Phillips, Garcia pitched tonight. Command wasn't great, but like the command with all those guys, like Maxwell, great stuff. Phillips, great stuff. May, great stuff. Just like there has been no gains in their command. Mm-hmm. Just one of those guys. They need one of those guys to just like figure it out. I thought it was going to be Phillips this year, and that didn't work out. The command's still bad, and he has not. I don't think he's been pitching that well in AAA either. Command wise, it's still a high whip from him. So someone just start locating something there, and they'll have something. But yeah, for now, I guess Pierce Johnson probably gets thrown right back into some sort of leverage situations based on necessity.
Yeah, I would agree on that front, but I think we'll be happy when Emilio Pagan returns and we don't have to stress about this bullpen too much. But based on how he was pitching prior to his injury, it might not be too much of a difference.
Yeah, it's still going to be stressful, just a different. At least we know who we're stressing about. So
right.
Just that.
That's right. All right, let's take a look at some of the injuries from the past week. Blake Treinen was placed on the 15-day IL with elbow inflammation. Chase McDermott was recalled from the minors and then subsequently optioned back to the minors to make room for Brock Stewart, who was activated from the 15-day IL after missing about a month and a half with a bone spur in his foot. Stewart is just always injured, so who knows how long he'll stick around, but do you think he is going to sort of immediately or directly replace Blake Treinen, or do you think somebody like Edgardo Henriquez or Will Klein or Kyle Hurt is that top right-handed option in the Dodgers bullpen with Treinen out?
I mean, Treinen wasn't really doing much anyway prior to this. So Stewart probably kind of does replace him 1-for-1. They've been leaning on Klein a lot and Hurt. I think Hurt's been better lately. I mean, Edgardo Henriquez has just been awesome the past month. I don't know if the Dodgers would ever like commit to actually having set roles behind Tanner Scott or in front of Tanner Scott in that bullpen. But if they were, I think Henriquez is definitely deserving at this point. There's more consistency from him. I mean, he's averaging he's got the best fastball amongst relievers right now in baseball. He's been averaging the highest velocity over the past month. And the slider is pretty good too. So yeah, I would love to see Edgardo Henriquez get a legit chance to get like 7th or 8th inning work there.
Yeah, that fastball is pretty incredible from him. 100.5 miles per hour on the season. So he's probably been pumping that up a little bit, but it allows him to dominate in the zone. And he's unlike Brusdar Graterol in that he can actually record some strikeouts, actually get some swing and miss with the fastball. So it's pretty exciting. Unfortunately, Dodgers just embarrassment of riches, but Henriquez looks like a future frontline reliever. Definitely a back of the bullpen type guy. And when they're without Edwin Diaz or Tanner Scott in a couple of years, I think Henriquez is probably the closer of the future for the Dodgers. Yeah. All right. Next, we've got the A's, who placed Mark Leiter Jr. on the 15-day IL with a hip impingement. They selected the contract of Jeff Hartlib in a corresponding move, and they also designated Scott Barlow for assignment amid his worst season of his career, and Matt Crook was selected from the minors in a corresponding move. So a couple of well-traveled veterans joining the A's bullpen, but I don't think we're going to see too much of an impact on the late innings. However, with Leiter Jr. and Barlow out of the picture, it clears things up in the late innings where you don't have all of these guys that are similarly used and similarly ranked. So you let Elvis Alvarado and Hogan Harris sort of separate themselves from the rest of the pack in that bullpen.
Yeah, we're down. I mean, I'm sure. I wonder if the A's would want Joe Kuhnel back now that he's throwing 98
Right.
miles per hour. But yeah, it thins that bullpen to where it's now Alvarado, Harris, and then like Sterner and Mason Barnett are probably that's maybe Luis Medina. I mean that's like their five, and then after that, yeah, it's going to be a revolving door. It looks like. So even Leiter, he's probably 2 bad outings away from getting DFA'd himself. So it's not like he had been pitching better, but I mean even like Barlow was pitching better, and then he had a couple bad outings, and like the ERA goes up to 6, and he's gone. So yeah, we'll see. That's another team where like if they're serious about being a playoff contender, they need to make additions to the bullpen. This is a great time. Great for teams who are selling. We'll get into the trades and stuff, but like great time for sellers to have bullpen pieces because every team needs like all these teams need relievers, and there's not going to be that many available, at least as of now. And it might be a thinner market than usual. So I hope the Red Sox get a lot for Chapman. They should get a pretty good haul for Chapman this summer.
Don't let him pitch in Colorado anymore. That was disastrous.
Yeah, I mean him and Whitlock allowed 8 hits on 13 pitches straight. Like just, I mean,
yeah, it is
Colorado,
a BABIP
man.
machine. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really inflates the BABIP there in Colorado. So hopefully they can work past that, and opposing teams will write that off when giving offers to them at the trade deadline. Speaking of the Rockies, is where our last injury comes from. Blas Castano was placed on the 15-day IL with a strained pectoral, and John Brebbia has had his contract selected from the minors in a corresponding move. Brebbia is a cool guy. I think he's pretty funny. He also, I think, is maybe one of the more seasoned veterans in this bullpen, alongside Jimmy Herget, who was activated from the 15-day IL after missing a couple weeks with a shoulder impingement, and Seth Halverson was optioned to the minors in a corresponding move. So, some movement here in this Rockies bullpen. I don't think it's going to matter too much in fantasy, though.
No, I know it's good to see Brebbia back. I played against him. He grew up. He's the same age as me. Grew up a town over from me, so it's always a fun one when I see his name.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry you have to pitch in Colorado now, but yeah, right. At least he's got a role there for now. Yeah, I thought Halverson was kind of. I mean, I don't know. They don't want to talk about this bullpen too much. I thought Halverson was starting to look better, but yeah, it's like every time someone like Juan Mejia, it's like, all right, I think he's 2 good weeks now. Like he's turning the corner, and then like it just all falls apart every time with this bullpen. Whether it's Halverson, Mejia, Jaden Hill, Vodnik, it's just it's not. I don't know. None of these guys are working out right now. That's just not it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't put this transaction on, but talking about failed Rockies relievers reminded me of Justin Lawrence, who was DFA'd by the Twins. And so if you're not making it in that Twins bullpen, it's rough. And if we have longtime listeners here, we know that that's my guy.
Yeah, he got I think his last outing was like 4 earned. Yeah, it was pretty bad. He's getting roughed up, and I think the stuff's not where it is. The fast, there's. Someone needs to, get him in a lab and just like completely rework some things there. But
Rays, we'll put him on the Rays.
It's probably like the Dodgers are probably going to stash him in AAA or something. Yeah, or the Rays.
Well, yeah, I hope some team can figure it out. Maybe even the Brewers. Plenty of teams like that. I just think the Rays would like the funky arm slot, but we'll see. I'm not losing hope on Justin Lawrence, but it's looking pretty bleak at this point. All right, we can move away from the news and notes and head into our 3 up, 3 down section. But first, we're going to take a quick break here on In the Pen. And we're back. Jake Crumpler here with Rick Graham on In the Pen discussing relief pitchers. We're moving into our 3 up, 3 down section where we talk about the closers rising and falling on Rick's weekly closer ranks, which you can find over on pitcherlist.com. Let's start with our risers. And none of these guys are really rising up the ranks, but they're guys who are on the lower end that are solidifying themselves in their current role so we can have more confidence in them moving forward. We'll go right back to that A's bullpen and talk about Elvis Alvarado, who was pretty bad on Sunday, but overall, since returning from the IL, he's looked much better. He's solidifying himself as the top option in this A's bullpen moving forward. And I I trust him. I feel like he's got to be rostered everywhere in leagues that you record saves.
Yeah, I think so he didn't have the best week, but it wasn't the worst week, especially when Hogan Harris had probably a worse week. I think the concern of Alvarado, it's not the command looks fine, or at least better than it's ever been. The stuff looks fine. It's just I still don't know if the A's are actually willing. I guess they did show that they were willing to give Perkins like some runway to be the closer there, so they might be okay with Alvarado taking that role and running with it. But I just want him to distance himself from Harris for the time being, and then I think that's it's Sacramento is going to be tough for anyone, obviously, but his stuff's good enough to where he might be able to at least mitigate most of the damage there and put up respectable numbers and get saves, because that team has been the A's team has been getting save chances. It's just been a revolving door and who's getting those saves. So I think Alvarado, I mean, it's his time to take that role and run with it, and hopefully we see that happen.
Agreed. Next, we've got Alex Lange, who last week we talked about him and he was coming off back-to-back losses, but this week, back-to-back saves in his last 2 appearances. So not only is he continuing to be a solid reliever, solid closer, but the Royals continue to trust him in that closer role. They're not going back to Lucas Erceg. They're not letting somebody like Daniel Lynch take over that role from him. So it looks like Alex Lange is going to be pretty safe in this role as long as Carlos Estevez is on the IL and he's pitching well, and he's still on the Royals and they're recording wins.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, the Royals could move on from a couple relievers. But I right now I would say Schreiber is their best reliever, but Lange hasn't done anything to lose the job. So I think he did what he needed to do last week to hang on, get a little bit of a longer leash there, at least till Estevez. And we don't know. I mean, we still haven't had any. Like Estevez is throwing. I think he's throwing bullpens now, but we have no velo readings yet. We haven't seen him in a game. So until I see him throwing 95 in a minor league game, I'm pretty much I'm gonna be considered Lange the closer for the rest of the season, unless he's traded at the deadline. Which then that could open up some doors for other people there. But it's the bullpen. The 2 lefties have been really bad lately. I mean, Lynch fell apart. I mean, that was not super surprising, but that just, I mean, Strom's been terrible. There's just nothing else there. So it's like Alex Lange is the guy until Estevez gets back, or the trade deadline changes everything there.
Right. All right. And lastly, our last riser is Sam Bachman, who finally recorded his first save of the season on Sunday, which is a great development in his season. And it was very promising for me because he blew up on Friday before that save, where it looked like, oh man, right when he's about to get there, he blows his first save. He just got absolutely blown up. His ERA rose like a run. I think he allowed 5 runs or something.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was bad, but 2 days later, he comes right back. They trust him in the 9th inning. Kirby Yates does not seem to be used in high leverage situations that often. No holds, just the 1 save. And while Chase Silseth is probably maybe alongside Ryan Zefferjon, his top competition, Bachman just continues to feel like the most trustworthy and reliable one of the 3.
Yeah, I mean, all of them are a little bit volatile, but Bachman maybe less so than. I mean, that one outing though kind of disagrees with that take, but I mean, Zefferjon, we know he can go out there and walk 4 guys in a row, or we can strike out 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Bachman feels a little bit safer than the other options for now, at least. And I mean, Kirby Yates' usage has been very particular. Like, they like using him in the 9th in blowouts. And he had a pretty good outing last night. But it's like he's been just facing AAA guys for the most part, and I don't know. They're maybe trying to make sure his numbers aren't too bad when they try to trade him, and I don't know. but teams are gonna. I mean, it's like it sounds stupid because like every other team,
Yeah.
they know he's throwing 90 miles per hour, and like
Mhm.
he's just not what he used to be. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with Yates, but I think Bachman's the guy to roster for now. It was looking like Zephyr John maybe last week, but yeah, I think the Angels should want Bachman to have that role and for him to run with it because he makes the most sense long term and short term for them.
Right. Yeah, he's definitely somebody that's going to be around long term. So definitely want to find that closer to the future. Who knows what happens if Ben Joyce ever gets back to the major leagues? But for now, we don't have to worry about that. We haven't seen that guy pitch in a while. So as those guys rise up the closer ranks, others need to fall to accommodate them. Let's start with our first faller, Ryan Helsley, who returned from the IL in the past week or so and hasn't looked very strong. He blew a save on Friday, allowing 3 runs, 2 of which were earned. He didn't strike anybody out, walked 2. He allowed 2 runs in the outing prior to that. So 5 runs, 4 earned in his first 2 appearances back from the IL. Is his command just all over the place? Is his stuff down? What's the deal with Ryan Helsley?
Yeah, this stuff looks fine. It's mostly the command with him. It's kind of been it was the issue before he went on the IL too. It's like Ryan Stanek has the worst case of this, but it's like either everything is outside of the zone or right like middle. You're just leaving.
Yeah.
You're just giving cookies.
Nick
Yeah,
calls that donut command.
don't yeah. That's okay. Yeah, that's kind of been Helsley this year. And the stuff's good. It's better than it has been from him in a while, to be honest, like a couple years. But the command is really sketchy. I want to believe he'll turn it around and he'll be fine. I think he will ultimately, but yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on there. Luckily, Rico Garcia's kind of fallen out of favor, and they really only trust Yennier Cano at this point outside of maybe Helsley. So or they love Kittredge still. I know he's been struggling, but they will go to him in key situations. But yeah, I think Helsley should be fine. At least role wise, he should have some leeway there. But yeah, we'll see how things progress with him. At least the stuff looks good, and he doesn't seem like it's an injury thing. It's just bad command at the moment.
Right, just sort of out of rhythm from returning from the IL, so he should get back on track and maybe not be immediately the top 10 reliever that he should be, but top 15 for now.
Yeah.
So let's move to Grant Taylor, who's had a frustrating week or so because it's coming at the worst time. Obviously, the White Sox aren't willing to commit to him as the closer, but Sir Anthony Dominguez has struggled in his past couple of starts appearances, back-to-back blown saves for Dominguez. And I just don't know who the White Sox would turn to outside of Dominguez. Obviously, they got the lefties Hudson and Newcomb, but they want Newcomb in some sort of hybrid long relief role who maybe is a starter, and Brian Hudson just feels a little bit precarious always. Like he's solid, but he doesn't feel like a closer. So you want Taylor in that role, but he's struggling as well. He's allowed a run in each of his last 4 appearances. The last 3 have been all earned runs, 6 earned runs across those last 3 appearances. And what do you think the issue is here? Is it just the command fading, or do you think part of the reason why you have him moving down the ranks is just because the White Sox are unwilling to use him in a normal way that makes him fantasy relevant?
It's just frustrating because like he and Sir Anthony Dominguez, one of those guys had a chance this week to take over that role, the closer role, and run with it, and both of them, they were just struggling equally as bad. And we know Dominguez has always had command issues. That's still an issue for Taylor. It's partially command, but the fastball velocity has been down more often than not the last like month or so, and it hasn't really hurt him until maybe yesterday. But as again, the command is still an issue. Yeah, I think just not just those two. Maybe like Hudson gets, Brian Hudson gets into the mix for saves, even though he's a lefty. Maybe they just go with matchups with the lefties if Newcomb does stay in the bullpen. But yeah, I just wanted this should have been the week Taylor took over that role, and we're moving forward with him as the closer. But yeah, just a bit of a setback for him. So
yeah,
we're still a week later. Like every week, it's just like waiting for someone to take over that role or to make a move, and they either both pitch well or they both pitch horrible, and that's what it was this week. They were both bad. So
who would you rather roster in standard leagues right now, Grant Taylor or Sir Anthony Dominguez?
I'd still rather Taylor. Just long term, I believe in him more. But yeah, I don't know. I it might just be this the rest of the way. Maybe
they trade for somebody.
I was gonna say maybe they're like a surprise team who goes out and gets like Chapman or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's like Taylor should be the guy. Like the stuff is off the wall. It's way better than anyone else in that bullpen. So it's frustrating. Yeah.
All right. Our last faller will stick in Chicago as Jacob Webb has not been spectacular since taking over the closer role. It's really just one bad appearance on Saturday over this past weekend. He allowed 3 runs in that one, and it was, I don't know. Fastballs were upstairs, but changeups were bad. Sliders at the secondary command was terrible. What else has you moving Jacob Webb down your ranks?
I mean, he had been throwing well, and now he's got runs in the past 4 outings, 4 out of the 5 outings he's pitched in. Right. And again, like at least he's not walking people. I still like seeing the command's been good. Stuff's been pretty good. But yeah, just a rough patch at the wrong time with him taking over the closer role. I guess good for him that Caleb Tealbar has also been struggling. And like, I don't really know who else they would turn to in the 9th inning with Palencia out. Rolison's the one guy that they don't really. I think he just got his first hold of the season, so they haven't really trusted him. But he's pitched pretty well for the most part. So, but I don't know if he's a closer. And yeah, this role should be Jacob Webb's to lose the closer role, but it's just the fact that he's not been pitching well lately, and we got some pretty positive news overall with Palencia. It doesn't sound like that's going to be a long-term issue. Probably back around the All-Star break, it sounds like. So, Webb's probably only got another week, 2 weeks as closer, maybe 3. So, I had him a little bit higher last week. He just drops down to the bottom half of that group where it's really just all the dart throws in that like 20 to 30 range with the guys we've talked about, Caleb Killian, those guys who we're still a little uncertain of what they are, what their role is. So, yeah.
All right. Well, that will wrap up our 3 of 3 down section. To recap, our risers were Elvis, Alvarado, Alex Lange, and Sam Bachman, and our fallers were Ryan Helsley, Grant Taylor, and Jacob Webb. Now we'll move into our main topic and have some early trade deadline speculation. But first, we're going to take another break here on In the Pen. And we're back. Jake Crumpler here with Rick Graham on In the Pen, discussing relievers that might be traded at this year's trade deadline. We're about a month away. We're going to look at some likely sellers, look at some fringe teams that could go either way depending on how they play over the next 2 to 3 weeks. And then we'll look at some of the top overall guys that could be traded at this year's trade deadline. According to, I think it was Kiley McDaniel and Jeff Passan, right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's start with the likely sellers and begin with the Rockies. They've got a trio of guys that could be traded: Antonio Senzatella, Jimmy Herget, and Brennan Bernardino. All these guys could have contractual control over the next few years. Senzatella club option next year, Herget a free agent after next year, and Bernardino not a free agent for a few years, but he's like 34 and he's a lefty. So if the Rockies want to trade him, they could. There might be some takers on Senzatella. He's pitched better this year, but I don't think this is not going to be the club that teams go to fix their high leverage situations.
No, Senzatella has been pitching better, but lately it's been very mediocre. I think he'll definitely have interest around the league. There's already been rumored interest. I just don't know what the expectation is for a team acquiring him. But yeah, I mean, we're looking at the Rockies. That probably opens. I guess he's the closer. I don't know. Is he the closer? He's listed as the closer here. I list him as the closer. He's not really the closer though. So it technically opens up a closer role in Colorado, but it doesn't really matter. So I don't think he's going to go anywhere and be the closer. I mean, anyone who goes to the Nationals will probably be the closer. So if that's the landing spot, then that could be interesting. But yeah, probably not someone who's going to gain too much value out when he gets traded. Sensatella, maybe in Holes leagues, but I don't think he's going to be closing anywhere.
All right, sticking in the NL West, we've got the Giants, who probably wish they had more options to trade. JT Brubaker is really the only obvious one. He's a impending free agent. Sam Hentges is also a free agent after next year, so he might be on the trade block. Guys like Jason Foley and Gregory Santos are 2029 free agents, so they still have 2 more years of control, but Foley has yet to appear in the majors, and Santos has been up and down between the minors and the majors, so he's not really established himself as being major league caliber. And then Ryan Walker and Eric Miller are guys that the club would like to trade with multiple years of control. They're not free agents until 2030, so they still got 3 more years of control, but Walker's not been good. Eric Miller has struggled this year as well, especially with his control. So I don't think those are guys the Giants would trade, but I'm sure if somebody gave him the right offer, they would let him go happily. But there's really not many options in this Giants bullpen, which is understandable because they traded them all away last year.
Yeah, I mean, their 3 best relievers are under contract for a while. It's none of these guys. So, yeah, I mean, if they can get anything of value for anyone here, they probably will, but they're probably going to be stuck with them and hoping that they can turn things around, moving forward.
The Mets are likely sellers, and they will most definitely hold on to Devin Williams, who signed a multi-year contract last offseason. But guys like AJ Minter and Brooks Raley are impending free agents. They both pitched well this year as well. Minter hasn't allowed a run since returning from the IL. Raley has a sub-2 ERA. So those 2 guys, I think, are guaranteed to be traded. And as southpaws, they're going to be highly coveted by playoff hopeful clubs. There's also Huascar Brazoban, who is in his 30s, but he's not a free agent. Not a free agent until 2030, though. So 3 more years of control, and that's because he had a late debut. He was up and down throughout his career. So he's
37.
Wow. So his service time is really low. I think they'd like to trade him to sub-2 ERA for him. You want to capitalize on that. And then there's the prospect of Luke Weaver, who still has 1 more year of control. I don't expect them to trade him, but if somebody comes calling and they give him a good enough offer, I could see that happening. And Weaver's somebody who could actually close for another ball club. But Raley and Minter are going to be some of the top relievers that are going to be targeted by playoff hopeful clubs.
Yeah, those are good pieces to have. Everyone's looking for a lefty at the deadline. Those are probably going to be the 2 best outside of, Chapman. Those are probably the 2 best lefties that are going to be available. So, the Mets should be able to capitalize there. And I think Brazoban would make sense too. Again, he's got some control, but the age factor probably makes him available. So, they could sell high on Weaver. He's been pitching. This is probably the best Luke Weaver's looked like ever the last couple weeks, throwing 96.5, 97 miles per hour consistently. They could sell high, but I think, the Mets are not looking to have a long rebuild. They probably want to run it back with Weaver, Devin Williams next year. They might even keep one of those lefties and with hopes of, keeping them around for a little bit, but
they're impending free agents, so they'd have to
I guess, or you could trade and then re-sign them in the off season. But I think they'll probably, I don't know, Weaver might be the biggest fish out there if he was available. That could change some things
for sure. Let's go to the Reds bullpen. And when we were talking about all these guys that we thought could be potential closers, but didn't really pan out, when I was putting this list of teams together or players together for these teams, the Reds stood out as they have all these guys that they're going to be able to trade. And I think that could open up the closer role next year for some of these high upside guys that don't really have their control figured out. But lefties, Caleb Ferguson and Brock Burke are impending free agents. I think very akin to AJ Minter and Brooks Raley, just on a lower tier, maybe 2 tiers below that. But they're both impending free agent southpaws that are definitely going to be traded. Emilio Pagan has a player option for next year, so there's a possibility he's on the trade block. Pierce Johnson has a mutual option for next year. I think he's probably guaranteed to be traded. Mutual options are never exercised, so he's guaranteed to be a free agent. And there's Sam Moll, who still has 1 more year of control, and Tony Santillan, who has 2 years of control. I don't think they'll trade Santillan, but Moll and the other 2 lefties, Ferguson and Burke, could be in there. Johnson's going to get traded, but we'll see what happens with Emilio Pagan.
Yeah, that could be an interesting one, especially if he comes back next week. You get a month of him to pitch at the MLB level. If he's throwing well, if he looks good, yeah, that could intrigue other teams to give up a pretty good package for him. I don't know. The player option could scare some people. What is the number? Let me look it up.
I'm gonna guess.
It's like 10 million. I mean, that's even if he opts in, which I don't know. It depends on, I guess, how he pitches the rest of the year. But 10 million is not a terrible number especially if you're a bigger market team. So I think Pagan would make things interesting. But yeah, Ferguson and Burke should definitely be on the move. Burke could be very interesting. Same with Ferguson. He's been pitching better lately. So yeah, I think Santillan, they'd have to be blown away, and the fact he's not pitching that well this year, they probably won't. So yeah.
All right. Move over to the Angels, who I think wished they had a lot of guys to trade, but they'll probably be acquiring guys because of the silliness of that organization in the past. They've got Kirby Yates and Brent Suter, both impending free agents. I think both of these guys are going to be traded. Suter in the same boat as like Brock Burke and Sam Moll and Caleb Ferguson, where it's just, unspectacular lefty that's an impending free agent. He's going to be traded. And Kirby Yates, I don't know. I'm sure some club will want to take the chance on him. They might not, but the Angels are definitely going to try to trade him. Yeah,
they're going to try to trade probably both. I do interesting in that you mentioned like the Kiley Passan piece, their trade deadline primer. They also put in Bachman, Silseth, and Zephyr John as possibilities, which would shock me. But I mean, I guess if we've seen guys like a Bachman, I guess like Louis Varland in that sense, where under team control for a while. I think if the Angels were to get like a Varland like package from someone for Sam Bachman, I mean that could definitely be out there, especially like if there's not a lot of teams actually selling, that might be the time for the Angels. I don't know if the Angels would do it. They probably should consider it, honestly. You can move Bachman or Silseth for a good return. I would definitely consider it if I'm them, because they need a lot. They need a lot of help. The bullpen's probably the last thing that they should worry about. That's about building around the lineup and the rotation at this point. So, those would be the interesting pieces for me if they were to move. Even Zephyr John too. If someone gets really excited about the potential of where his stuff sits right now. I mean, there's definitely some options in that bullpen if the Angels were willing to move on from some guys with term.
All right, we'll move over to the Red Sox, where they have Danny Coulombe and Tommy Kahnle as impending free agents. They have not pitched very well this year, but they are veterans, so there might be some clubs interested in that. But Aroldis Chapman and Garrett Whitlock are probably 2 of the top options in the trade market for relievers. Chapman has a 2027 vesting option that would vest if he eclipses 40 innings and passes a physical in the offseason, whereas Garrett Whitlock has club options for 2027 and 2028. So the Red Sox don't have to get rid of Whitlock. They don't have to trade him, but he does have those added club options that make him more valuable as a potential trade chip. And then there are guys who are 2030 free agents, Tyron Guerrero and Greg Weissert, who I don't think the Red Sox will be wanting to hold on to too tightly. So if somebody comes calling, I'm sure they'll give them up.
I think, so Coulombe and Conley aren't going to give you much. Chapman should be the big fish here that you need to capitalize on. And I don't know. I mean, I would sell him earlier than later, especially the last 2 games have been a little rough. But yeah, he's definitely gone. Whitlock's the interesting one because that's going to be, I think a lot of teams, you can probably get a lot for him. But at the same time, then you're down Chapman and Whitlock moving into next year. So you have to kind of fully rebuild that bullpen from either free agents or trades. But yeah, the club options make him like those are pretty favorable. 8.25 next year and 10.5 in 2028. Those are not bad numbers, especially if he's closing out games.
Yeah, I could see him going to like the Nationals, who need multiple years of a closer moving forward.
There's a Red Sox connection there too, with Taboni being over there. So yeah, that's actually that could work. But yeah, I put in because Tyron Guerrero I think is the wild card because he's been, I mean, ridiculous. It's only been 12 innings, but he's been absolutely ridiculous. And again, he's in that boat with like Oscar Brazaban, where he's not a free agent until 2030, but he's also 36.
Yeah,
but he still throws 100. The breakers, the off-speed stuff's pretty good. Again, it's only been 12 innings, but the numbers are really good, and I think this is kind of like found money, where I know that's not his name. So did you see the thing? Like he's been.
I just saw that
his name's been misspelled for his whole
No, when I searched it on Pitcher List, it said T-A-Y.
We haven't fixed it yet. Yeah.
No, but then when you go on his player page, it is T-Y-R.
It changes it back. Yeah, I know.
Oh, that is weird. They're tricking us.
Yeah, but
2% walk rate is crazy from Guerrero.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen him since like 2018, but
yeah,
he was always like 100 mile per hour. Who knows where it's going? But the command's been better. Still throws hard. I mean, that's someone that again found money for them that they could probably get a really good return for, or they hang on to him and move forward with him in the bullpen and see how long. He's what is he? I think he's 35, 36. So I mean, that's definitely a name I would keep an eye on because. Yeah, he would be a difference maker for some teams potentially. He hasn't been pitching in leverage situations because you have Slayton, Whitlock, and Chapman in front of him, but he's definitely deserving of getting that chance somewhere.
All right. Tyron Guerrero, certainly a wild card dark horse in that Red Sox bullpen as a trade chip. Next, we'll look at the Royals, who have some decent options. Matt Strahm is an impending free agent. John Schreiber's been pitching really well this year. He's an impending free agent. Carlos Estevez, injured, hasn't looked good, but he has a 2027 club option. I don't think the Royals will end up trading him, nor do I expect any club to want to trade for him. Nick Mears. What were you going to say about
it's a club option, so it's probably going to get declined anyway. So maybe someone would take a chance.
Yeah, I doubt it. I don't think anybody wants him at this point. Nick Mears still has one more year of control. He's currently injured. And then there's the possibilities of Daniel Lynch, who still has 2 more years of control, but he's pitching really well. So maybe the Royals try to capitalize on that. Alex Lange still has 2 more years of control. And I think they would, I think they would want to capitalize on that because he's been so volatile throughout his career that maybe you want to capitalize while he's looking like closer-esque, trade him to another club. And then there's the possibility of Lucas Erceg, who's not a free agent for 3 more years of him getting traded, but he's not looked too great this year. So definitely Strahm and Schreiber going to be on the move, but the rest of them it really depends on how the Royals want to go about next season.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great time for Schreiber to be breaking out. And I'm sure someone's going to be willing to take a chance on Strahm. He's been terrible, but he's had a pretty good career. He's been effective up until this point. So, and he's left-handed, so someone will take a chance there. I think it depends on if Estevez could come back and have a decent outing or two, maybe throws hard. Maybe someone would be interested, especially given his background with closer experience. But it's probably a long shot. And then the rest of them, I think Lynch is someone they should consider, and probably Lange too. I mean, I didn't realize he's got that many. He's got 2 more years left of arbitration. So if you could sell high on Lynch and Lange, I think that makes a lot of sense for the Royals.
Yeah, definitely, at least on Lange. I mean, Lynch seems more of like a guy you can trust to still be good next year, whereas Lange is really volatile. But I think you want to capitalize on both of those guys pitching well. And lastly, the Tigers might not be completely out of it, but they definitely have some options to trade. They could look to trade Emmanuel De Jesus, who's an impending free agent. They signed him, I think, at NPB. And then Kenley Jansen and Drew Anderson both have club options for next year. Kyle Finnegan is not a free agent until possibly 2028, where he has a player option. Will Vest is a free agent in a couple years. And Tyler Holton and Bo Brieski have 2 more years of control as well. So a lot of guys that they could trade. It would really upend their whole bullpen if they traded multiples of these guys. But I think DeJesus as a southpaw should be somebody that is on the block. And I guess if a contending team really wants a closer, I don't think the Tigers would hold on too hard to Kenley Jansen.
Yeah, I think DeJesus could be a nice pickup for someone, sleeper left-handed guy who can give you innings or, pitch well in one inning stints as well. I think Jansen probably should go. But yeah, I don't know. Again, the Tigers could make a run here. They could keep everyone, but I mean, we'll see what Jansen's deal is and if he's willing to, or if he's okay with with a move to a team where he might not close, because he's definitely dealing with some health issues all year. He didn't pitch last night for whatever reason. I don't know. He should have been available, but they kept Vest for the ninth as well. So it depends on his health with Jansen. Maybe he just sticks around and pitches the rest of the year as the closer. Vest could be a guy. He's been pitching well lately. Maybe that's someone who they could look to capitalize on despite having a couple years left. Same with Drew Anderson. Been pitching better out of the bullpen. So I think those two guys, Vest and Anderson, would have interest around the league. Same with Holton if they were to get rid of Holton. But yeah, he's got some years left, so they probably keep him.
All right, so those are all the teams that are almost guaranteed to be sellers at this year's trade deadline. Now we'll look at some teams that are sort of on the fringe. They're within 2 games of a playoff spot. So depending on how these teams play over the next 2 to 3 weeks, they could either become buyers or become sellers. I think some of these teams are sort of more clearly sellers than the others, and some of them will probably want to be sellers based on how many options they have to trade. We'll start with the Astros, who have a trio of impending free agents in Brian Abreu, Steven Okert, and Eniel De Los Santos, who they'll likely want to trade if they're out of it. It sort of sucks that Brian Abreu's going through what he's going through right now, both on and off the field. And they have a couple other guys, Nate Pearson, 2028 free agent, so he's got 1 more year of control. If a team wants him, I'm sure they'll give him up. Josh Hader, I don't expect them to trade Josh Hader regardless. He's got 2 more years of control. And then Bennett Sousa, 3 years of control. He could be on the block as well, but he's currently injured. So I think the Astros want to trade Abreu, Okert, and De Los Santos, and they might do it regardless of how they play over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Okert and I guess Abreu, depending on what his status is, would make sense. Same with De Los Santos. De Los Santos and Okert should definitely get them a good return if the Astros end up selling. Maybe Pearson could get someone interesting. Yeah, I think they hold on to Hader. It would have to be a huge return for them, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Astros ultimately are going to probably try to ride this out and compete. They've been playing better lately. Their pieces there, and they're getting some guys back, so they might. But yeah, Okert and De Los Santos would get them a good return. They've both been pitching pretty well. Their stuff looks good. Yeah. So the very interesting decisions to make for the Astros, especially when it comes with Jordan's the big one, but their bullpen as well. Because if they lose Okert and De Los Santos, that's a huge loss for them. In front of Hader.
Yeah. Next, we've got the Orioles, who have plenty of options. Andrew Kittredge and Keegan Aiken are both impending free agents. Aiken has not pitched too well, and Kittredge's numbers also ERA over 6, but both of these guys have been good in the past. Maybe they just need a change of scenery. Ryan Helsley has a player option for next season, so there's a possibility they could trade him. I would expect the Orioles to hold on to him, but who knows? That could definitely change with how they play over the next couple of weeks. Tyler Wells still has 1 more year of control, but with the plethora of options in that bullpen, I don't see them holding on too tightly to Wells. And then there's Yennier Cano, who still has 2 more years of control. I would not expect them to trade Cano, but I definitely wouldn't be surprised if they did. So plenty of options here in the Orioles bullpen. It really just depends on how they play. They've not been great this season, but they're still in the hunt for the wild card.
Yeah, they're probably gonna be like a last minute decision. what they're going to do, buy or sell. And if they do sell, they have some interesting bullpen pieces here, especially if Kittredge can figure it out. Helsley would probably take a pretty good return. I would love to see. It'd be fun just to see him back in St. Louis, though, the way they're playing and the fact that they need a closer. Mm-hmm. But the player option could make things difficult for some teams because he might opt into that $14 million next year. I think Cano would probably be a good time to move him. Down year last year. He's figuring things out this year. He's going to be 33 next year. Maybe this is the time to sell high on Cano and teams. Yeah, he's not your like typical setup man. And then the Orioles have been using him very interestingly this year. I've been noticing like where almost using him as a right-handed specialist where he comes in and gets the last out of an inning against a tough righty, and that's it. It's like the one batter and done, which I think a lot of other teams should consider with certain guys. But yeah, Cano is definitely a useful bullpen piece for any contender in a role similar to that, as long as he's facing righties. So I think that would be a good one. But yeah, Kittredge, if they're going to move pieces here, especially Aiken as well. You can get Kittredge and Aiken figuring things out in the next month. That those guys should be, wanted by teams who are going to make the playoffs as back end bullpen pieces, but they have not been pitching well this year.
All right, let's look at the Twins bullpen where they don't really have many options, which makes sense because this bullpen is not great. But Taylor Rogers is an impending free agent. I would definitely not be surprised if teams are interested in his services. He's been reliable for many years. Not great this year, but definitely could provide some depth from the left side. There's Anthony Bonda, who's pitching pretty decently this year as well. He's still got one more year of control. And then there's Cole Sands, who has 2 more years of control, but he's currently on the IL. Not a lot of interesting options in this Twins bullpen, but they probably should be sellers, right? I mean, even if they trade these guys, they're not hurting. I mean, both of those are lefties, so definitely would be coveted on the trade market.
Yeah, Rogers will definitely get something. I think Bonda is the interesting one. The way I don't, again, some of these, there's been some very interesting, like just velocity gainers, I guess, in the past month. And he's one of them who's like all of a sudden throwing 97 like and a half, like averaging some games. And I'm not sure where that came from. But it's there now, and it's been making him interesting. And he closed out a game the other day, so he's Bonda's worked his way into. I think the Twins finally have like a bit of a back end trio and structure with Yoandres and Bonda and Andrew Morris. Yeah. And Morris isn't great, but he's got a good fastball, and that's a good start. And if he can just find something else outside of the fastball, they have a pretty interesting trio there. And Bonda's got another year of control, but I think they would still sell high on him if they could get something good, because they basically got him for free after the Dodgers DFA'd him. So, that would be good for the Twins to sell high on Bonda. But they're still sneaking around the play. I mean, that's why it's surprising that they're in this group with they're only a game back of a playoff spot. So, we'll see. But it does sound like there's some conflicting reports there on whether they want to sell or not. I think that they were talking about Joe Ryan and they weren't sure. I think the owner wants to hang on to guys and the GM wants to sell or something. I don't know. Maybe it might be the other way around, but either way, this team could go down to the wire like these other ones, whether or not they're going to buy or sell.
Yeah, the Rangers should be going down to the wire as well, just because they're in the hunt for the division right now. They're just 2 games back of first place in the AL West because that division is really tightly packed right now, other than the Angels. They have a trio of impending free agents. Chris Martin and Jalen Beeks are both on the IL, and Tyler Alexander is, he's Tyler Alexander and not super special. I don't think a lot of teams are going to be really excited about him, but I could see all those guys getting traded, especially if the first 2 are healthy. And Jacob Junis has a mutual option for next year, so I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded as well if the Rangers are out of it come the trade deadline. And then there's the possibility of Robert Garcia, but he's on the 60-day IL. He's got 3 more years of control, so I don't really see that happening. But Martin, Beeks, Alexander, and Junis should all be on the trade block if the Rangers don't play well across the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I mean the big return there would probably come from Junis, who's been their setup guy all year or closer for a little bit before Latz took over.
Yeah.
But yeah, Junis would definitely be a piece that a lot of teams would want in their bullpen. So yeah, the mutual options not it's 5 million for next year, not a big number, and he's been pitching well. So yeah, I think Junis would definitely be on the move if the Rangers decide to sell. I mean, Martin and Beeks and Alexander might get something, but nothing of interest. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also in the AL West, the A's, I feel like they're probably going to be buyers, but really depends on how they play over the next 3 weeks. They've got Mark Leiter Jr. as an impending free agent. Obviously, he just hit the 15-day IL, but there's a possibility that teams get him and wait for him. We saw that happen with Shelby Miller last year as he was injured, and Brewers went and picked him up and waited for him to come back healthy. And I think he lasted like a week after that before needing Tommy John surgery. There's also Jose Suarez, who's a swing man from the left side. He's a journeyman as well. He's got one more year of control. And then there's Luis Medina, who free agent in 3 years. He's got 3 more years of control, but he's somebody who's shown some potential. He throws very hard, and maybe a team wants to take the chance on taking on that contract and sort of figuring him out as they would have the time to do so. But I don't see the A's being too willing to trade somebody like that in their thin bullpen.
Yeah, I doubt they move on from, at least their top 4 guys are, under control for a while, but these guys are, friend. They just Suarez has been bouncing around. Medina they probably hold on to, and yeah, I mean Leiter would be the guy that would get traded, but I don't know what type of return you even get for him. I wonder. I mean, maybe like Hogan Harris would, if someone was to overpay for him, they would consider it. I mean, they did move on from Lucas Ursig a couple years ago to the Royals when Ursig had, tons of years of control. So no, Harris could be a guy that they might sell high on, even though it's, I guess, sell high being that it's kind of a breakout for him, but it hasn't been that great. But a team could overvalue him, so that'd be a name I would keep an eye on, especially since he's a left-handed reliever, and teams are always looking for that.
Yeah, they are. Let's talk about the Diamondbacks, who might be the biggest X factor when it comes to the reliever market at the trade deadline. They have 6 impending free agents, and I think this is a club that probably is a little bit hoping that they don't play too well over the next couple of weeks. They are within 2 games of a playoff spot. They're 10.5 back of the division, but they are in the wild card race. However, 6 impending free agents, like I said: Taylor Clark, Jonathan Loaizaga, Paul Sewald, Ryan Thompson, AJ Puck if he comes back healthy, and Kevin Ginkel. So plenty of guys there. Puck is somebody who he just got a delay in his rehab, so we might not see him back until August or September, but I wouldn't be surprised if the club takes the chance on him because of the upside there. But the rest of those guys, I mean, Sewald has closing potential. All the rest of those guys are very solid setup pieces. So if the Diamondbacks are sellers at the deadline, they will be getting a lot of prospects back.
Yeah, I mean, just get rid of, this is like the Twins last year, just getting rid of their whole bullpen, except for these guys are all impending free agents.
Right.
Yeah, I think, like you said, Puck will definitely, if they do decide to sell, and like someone would take a chance on Puck, hoping he comes back in September and is a factor for that team in the postseason. So
right.
Ginkel's been throwing better this year. Sewald's been closing. He's been great. He had a bad night tonight, but it wasn't a save chance, so it doesn't count. Loaizaga's been pitching better lately. He was good at the start of the season, kind of dipped, a little bit, but he's been better lately. And Clark's a solid, back end, a bullpen guy just to have like around as your 7th or 8th bullpen guy and a good bullpen. So all these guys have value somewhere. But yeah, Sewald and Ginkel and Puck would be the big fish here, especially if Puck has any sorts of positive, rehab news coming out before the trade deadline. But sounds like he might not be ready to throw again until August, so that team would really just have to be taking a chance on his health there.
Next, we've got the Pirates. They have 2 impending free agents, Gregory Soto and Dennis Santana. And Soto, honestly, should be one of the top relievers at the trade deadline if the Pirates do end up being sellers. They're at 500 right now. I mean, they haven't been that good in a long time. So this might be a club that looks to buy and capitalize, but also it's a team run by Bob Nutting. So I wouldn't expect them to want to invest. They already invested this past offseason. So
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they end up being sellers, and Gregory Soto is one of the top options there as a hard-throwing southpaw that has closer experience. And then Dennis Santana might be turning it around a little bit, but they couldn't trade him last offseason when he was at his best. So I don't expect them to be able to do that this year.
Yeah, I think maybe a dark horse they could move or could sell high on would be like a Johan Ramirez as well. He's got, I think, 2 more years of control, no options left, but he's been pitching. He's had some blow ups, but for the most part, Johan Ramirez has been pitching pretty well this year. I think, I mean, it depends on how the Pirates are like a month from now, but yeah, if the Pirates see Chapman get traded and like the return for Chapman is insane, like they'll probably look at Gregory Soto like maybe we should capitalize on this, because behind Chapman, if like no one else is a seller, like Soto would be the next guy. That's like the runner up gets Gregory Soto, and you could probably get a really good return depending on how that Chapman deal works out. So I would like to see the Pirates make a run and just like capitalize on every year you have Paul Skeens, like try to win with that guy. But yeah, like you said, the Pirates could I don't know. It depends on where they are a month from now, if they're in the mix or not. But I would like to see them try to make a run. They should be adding to that bullpen, if anything.
Right. Lastly, we've got the Miami Marlins, who have Pete Fairbanks as an impending free agent. This team is probably they have the best record of these within 2 games of a playoff spot teams. It's just they're in the tough NL East, but they're 2 games above 500. They do have Pete Fairbanks as an obvious guy to sell at the deadline as an impending free agent. Then there are guys like Anthony Bender and John King who are pitching really well this year, but they still have 1 more year of team control. And there's Andrew Nardi, who's on the 60-day IL. He's still got 2 more years of control. And then there's Calvin Fauché, who has 3 more years of team control. I don't expect Nardi or Fauché to be traded, but Fairbanks, Bender, and King should all be there if the Marlins do decide to be sellers. If not, they're definitely going to hold on to this group and push for the playoffs.
Yeah, I could see Bender being like one of those guys who gets traded and everyone's like, how did they get that type of return for a reliever? Like, who was it last year? Like Tyler Rogers last year with the Giants, the Mets. I feel like Bender could be that type of, someone's going to give the Marlins basically a package they can't really turn down. But yeah, it also depends on, if they're willing to sell, what the situation is there. Obviously Fairbanks could get a good return if that's the way they go. Nardi, if he was healthy, would definitely be in that mix too, but he might not pitch again this year. So King would be a nice return. They've gotten a good couple months out of John King, so selling high on him would also be good for the Marlins. But yeah, we'll see. It's going to be a really tough hill for them to climb in the NL East to keep up with everyone. But I mean, they could still be in the wild card mix a month from now and decide to go for it.
For sure. All right, let's take a very quick look at the Kiley McDaniel, Jeff Passan top 100 trade deadline. Yeah, so obviously Aroldis Chapman, the number 1 reliever, Garrett Whitlock, number 2. But then there's Riley O'Brien, who closer for the Cardinals. He's been pitching well. The Cardinals are 42-34, so it would be very surprising to me if they ended up selling. I think O'Brien still has 4 more years of control too, so that one's pretty surprising to see them have Riley O'Brien on the list.
Yeah, especially the way he's been pitching lately. It's not really selling high on him anymore. Maybe they can get someone to, or maybe this is like the beginning of the end for O'Brien, and this would be considered selling high if they don't feel good about him moving forward. He's 31, going to be 32 next year. So, I mean, yeah, I guess the Cardinals were probably expecting to sell at the deadline and move some of these guys. So, if they're still playing well a month from now, they're not going to sell, right? I don't think they would do that. Yeah,
I don't think so. They're really in it.
NL Central's definitely winnable too. Yeah.
Yeah, 42-34, 5 games back of first place for the Cardinals, and they're still in the wild card hunt for sure. Moving down the list, Senzatella at 29, Fairbanks 31, Bender 34, Lynch at 35, Rayleigh, Minter, Backer is on there for the Marlins too. I mean, we talked about how the Marlins are probably the team that's closest to the playoffs right now, but Backer's been pitching very well this season, 27% strikeout rate, 3 ERA, but I think he has 4 more years of control, maybe 5. He's only had 1 year of service time, so that would be pretty surprising for me to see them trade Backer.
Yeah, that's a useful piece. Again, he's another guy who can give you length, give you a really good inning. Like there's a lot of, he's very underrated. Maybe a team blows away the Marlins with a deal for him. But yeah, I don't see him getting moved. But that would be another one who, like, people would probably be like, what? How did this guy get this return? But like, he's really good. He's really good. Very versatile bullpen piece, or he can be a starter. I think he should be a starter, but
at least in the technical sense as an opener.
Yeah, you're right.
Pretty good as an opener. Moving down the list, Sam Bachman at 40. You made sure to mention him, and Chase Silseth, who's at 51. Kenley Jansen at 43. Rico Garcia at 48. We didn't talk about him for the Orioles because he still has 4 more years of control. But if the Orioles want to sell high on the journeyman who's 32, I wouldn't be surprised about that.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of did last year with like Brian Baker. I don't know if that worked out or not, but yeah, maybe if they can get a good return for Garcia, they would definitely consider it. And he's not been as good the last month or so. So cracks are starting to show. Maybe this is the time to sell high on him too.
Yeah. Moving down the list, Silseth at 51, Drew Anderson, Michael Peterson of the Marlins. That's another one of these guys who has a lot of control left. So I would be surprised to see them trade him, but he is 32 and this is the only good season we've seen from him. So maybe they want to capitalize on Michael Peterson, sort of similar to Rico Garcia.
Yeah, I bet you a lot of teams would be interested in him if he's available. Definitely has 8th inning, 7th inning setup guy written all over him with his stuff. But I don't think the Marlins, even at 32, and I don't think the Marlins would be, want to trade him or move on from him, especially if they're moving on from like Fairbanks, Fauché, and Bender. They need someone there with some term.
Right. Moving down the list, Taylor Rogers, Brock Burke, Fauché, Zephyr Schreiber, Caleb Killian at 62. If the Giants want to capitalize on that, that would be pretty surprising to me, considering they really don't have many relievers to be hopeful about. He's still got 5 more years of control. That would be, I don't really see that one.
Yeah, you'd have to be getting like a top 100 prospect plus for him or something. Yeah.
Jaden Hill of the Rockies is next at 63. Definitely a high upside guy out of that Rockies.
Get him out of Colorado.
Yeah. It's like Angel Chivy. He hasn't really gotten a chance, but I mean, just like, the Rockies have proven willing to trade somebody like that, but there is the new front office there. They do have Moneyball guy there. And I don't know if he's going to want to trade one of their potentially good future relievers.
Yeah, again probably would have to be a really, really good return for him. With how much term he's left, but yeah, it's definitely not out of the question, I would say.
Yeah, I think 5 more years of control for Jaden Hill.
Yeah.
Then there's Jojo Romero. If the Cardinals do end up being sellers somehow, they'd really have to struggle across the next month. But Romero would definitely be on there. I think he's an impending free agent, so that one makes sense. Maybe they trade him regardless and sort of shift around what the bullpen and what the roster looks like. But I think the bullpen is probably something that they'd want to reinforce rather than trade from.
Yeah, they don't have, if they had they had some lefties there to like fall back on, but they really don't. So, but they could be, some teams buy and sell, and then you move Romero, you fill in with a worse lefty and hope that just all evens out. Because I think Romero is probably someone who teams covet, or they have been. I mean, his name's been in trade rumors for a while, so you could probably get a good return for him if they wanted to.
All right. Caleb Ferguson, Matt Strom, Ryan Stanek, also of the Cardinals. He's got a 2027 club option. Wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals trade him if they end up in a sell mode. There's John King, JT Brubaker, Andrew Kittredge, Juan Mejia of the Rockies. That's another guy that maybe they try to sell high on. Brennan Bernardino, we mentioned, Alex Lange, Greg Weisser, George Soriano, another Cardinals guy. I mean, the Cardinals clearly have some options to trade, but they just seem the unlikeliest to sell at the deadline. Danny Coulomb, Kirby Yates, and Justin Brule of the Cardinals as well. So there's plenty of options to be traded. It obviously depends on where these teams are when it comes time to get the deals done in the end of July. So we'll be keeping an eye on this. We'll definitely revisit this in a few weeks. And obviously we'll be covering very closely the trade deadline because it's a huge time for relievers. It's a huge time for closers and fantasy teams. So definitely some of the most impact comes in bullpens, and we'll definitely have you covered across the next month. But Rick, this is going to do it for this episode of In the Pen. Why don't you go ahead and plug your socials and let everybody know what you're working on?
Yeah, you can find me on socials at I am Rick Graham. Working on, as usual, reliever roundup and streamer articles each morning. And then every Tuesday, the reliever ranks, which covers closers, holds, and save plus holds rankings.
All right. You can follow the pod at In the Pen Pod. You can follow me on socials at Jake Crumpler. You can find all of my work at crumplerbaseball.com. I do 4 days of the daily First Pitch podcast over here at Pitcher List. I also do the weekend editions of the SP Roundup, and you can find more of my work over at Baseball HQ, where I do playing time analysis for 4 teams: the Giants, A's, Diamondbacks, and Angels. But that will do it for this episode 166 of the In the Pen podcast. We'll talk to you all next week.